All right, let's get started. So today we're here to talk about the cloud strategy roadmap and how we actually get there. It's my great pleasure to introduce our panelists, Aled, Neil, myself, and Lewis. Aled, do you want to give us a quick 20-second introduction? Welcome. And you're on mute, mate.
Double mute buttons. Thank you. My name's Aled Sage. I work for CloudSoft. I divide my time between the business side of things and helping customers with cloud strategy, getting maximum value from cloud. Very technical background, but these days more at the strategy and architecture side of things.
Fantastic. Neil?
Hi, I'm Neil Campbell. I'm a principal cloud architect at CloudSoft. Been working in the industry for a very, very long time, in excess of 30 years. Have worked across lots of different sizes and styles of organizations with a particular passion for security and architecture.
Hi, I'm Frank. I'm going to be your host and moderator for today and keep us all on track. My background is in data strategy. I ran the data practice for a large media company before joining CloudSoft. And of course, Lewis, voice of the business. Welcome. You're a new guest.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, I'm Lewis. I'm the commercial director for CloudSoft. So spend my time engaging with our customers who are really going through this type of process. So here to just try and bring a bit of a voice of the customer. My background has been in sales and sales management for the last 15 years across a lot of transformation, and more recently within the voice of the customer and customer experience. So really keen to see what I can bring to this.
Brilliant. Good. We're not outnumbered by the techies too much today. So whilst you're reflecting on your big challenges and why this is relevant, let's get started with the think and learn part of this. So part one, we're going to talk about the business perspective, what's driving the need to update things, and then we're going to get into the practical exercise shortly after. So we've got 10 minutes now. Lewis, I'm going to start with you. What's changed? A lot of businesses haven't updated their cloud strategy in years, right? This was a big thing in 2010, 2011, another big thing in 2015, 2016. But now we've got generative AI pushing things. We've got, a lot of point management tools. We've got a lot of changes in how we're consuming IT services. From the business perspective, what do you think has changed recently, and why update the strategy now?
There's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years. I think we're starting to see the impact of COVID on business change as well. Like, I think it's been quite a delayed reaction, but organizations are starting to really tighten the purse strings across the board. And it means that gone are the days of being able to just start building out some cool technology without there being a really core business value to it. So I think just now being able to really look at your planning, your roadmap for where you're trying to get to, and ensuring that that's tying back to the value that it's going to bring to the business is key. Organizations are really struggling to be able to articulate the value that their IT spend, their cloud spend is bringing to the organization. And I think we're starting to see board of directors, we're starting to see investors asking a lot of questions about where this money is going. So being able to articulate and build a plan that fits back to this is really important.
And Aled, what do you think has changed recently?
So yeah, agree with Lewis there. I think that the theme of do more with less is a recurring one, and that more is on a number of fronts. It's not only make sure we're doing the same things but decreasing costs. It's also a need to be able to move fast without breaking things. Like, there's increasing disruption in various markets, and at the same time there's also less investment available, be that harder to get VC funding. So private equity is beginning to pick up again, but for a long time it was hard to get that funding, and mergers and acquisitions were getting harder with the cost of borrowing. All of that impacts the cloud strategy in terms of going, what are our priorities? What are we really trying to achieve with the business? And I think it's also important to revisit those priorities. Like, if folk have already moved to the cloud a few years ago, then are they really getting the business benefits they expected from that? And if not, why not? What are those priorities that need to be reviewed? And and what modernization programs are really going to deliver the value that's needed.
And Neil, you've seen it all, man.
Wait, make me feel old, Frank.
Well, you've seen it all in cloud, which would make you 11 years old, I suppose. So, what's changed? Why think about the strategy now?
In one word, pace. The sheer pace of change. And that's not just the pace with which the technology is changing. So in cloud, it's a very rapid evolution in technology, but we're seeing much faster pace of change driven by customers and stakeholders. So whether they are those that are looking at you from a compliance perspective or from an auditing perspective, or just customers saying, I want more and I'm not prepared to wait for it. So we're seeing a lot of pace. So when people think about strategy, it has to be a strategy that's capable of handling pace of change.
So some of the challenges here that we're picking up from Jess, Greg, Jason, and Mick, who's shared it with the panelists. If it's a private thing to you, feel free to share it with the panelists. But if you don't mind sharing publicly, you can send the message to everyone, saying things like, it's a skills shortage, regulatory compliance, vendors changing the goalposts. Are these changes? Are the types of changes new and fundamental? Let me ask question 2. What hasn't changed? Aled.
So a lot of the fundamentals and foundations of like how to do these things, how to move fast at pace, how to build systems that can evolve, and how to get that business value from cloud, like a lot of those things are well understood. They're just very hard to incorporate into a business, particularly a business that already has particular cultures and processes in place. Yeah, that's digital transformation that is often touted. There's a reason why it's that transformation. It does require looking at these changes and how to do that both from a top-down perspective, but also looking at how do we make sure that there are that breadth of skills across the organization to really achieve what's wanted there.
And Neil, do you think engineers are now being asked to do an awful lot more? It's not just manage a database. Now you're a product manager, a customer feedback UX guru, an architect. Do you think people are being asked to do more with less? And what do you think has changed in cloud? Even I'd say over the last 5 years. What hasn't changed?
What hasn't changed is people. We're still human 1.0. We're still dealing with that. We still have, as Al had mentioned, the cultural challenges that we have that relate to change. People within an organization, you will still have some people who are just resistant to change, and you've kind of got to bring them along on that journey. They've got to buy into the strategy and the vision, and they've got to kind of move that along with them. In terms of being asked to do more with less, that's been a fundamental issue of engineering forever. What I think is different is how broad we are asked to look at things from an engineering perspective. Things used to be much more defined and slower moving, but now there's much more kind of autonomy to make the changes that you need to make. But you've got to be given the context, which means we look at a broader range of things when we decide what to do.
Yeah. And Lois, we've kind of been working on our own internal thoughts around how do we deeply understand the maturity and meet a customer or meet a team where they're at around sort of traditional tech enabled or high tech. But don't you think a lot of this is about the old game and the new game, right? The old game being very much focused around managing infrastructure, managing a data center, managing a lot of on-premise stuff, to more towards driving more towards platform and cloud native applications and microservices. How do you see that shift? Do you think people are kind of getting stuck and are still in the very early stages of cloud maturity, or do you see a lot of businesses now being pushing ahead into being a cloud-first business?
It's a good question. I think the journey is different for every organization. But if we look at the question about what hasn't changed in cloud, is that cloud has never been the answer to everything, and it continues to not be the answer to everything. It's how you approach it that matters. And I think that as businesses are starting to move more towards platform engineering, as product becomes more prevalent and being able to get more things out to customers, the speed of change and the speed of innovation that Neil mentioned earlier is consistent across the board. Whether you're in a traditional business or you're in a high-tech business, the goals are the same. You need to acquire more customers and you need to retain more customers. And to do that, you need to have the best product offerings. You need to have the best service capabilities. And that changes customer to customer. But as they start to look at the new game, no one's doing it perfect, but people are making strides towards it. But the answer of just moving things into the cloud is not going to make you acquire more customers or retain more customers. It's just going to help you manage that in a better way. It's what you do once you're in there that's most important.
I think that's a very good answer. And, you know, it would be remiss of me not to say that finding a good partner to help you, help you move into that new game successfully, especially one that's been around the block. Shameless plug, I promise it's only for 30 seconds, but it actually has a very deep bit of operational experience behind it. So, Ella, if we think about the sort of the needs and drivers for business and technology, AWS calls it BizTech goals, and then you think about the outcomes that actually matter to the customer or the end customer. First point here is thinking about not a linear process, right? This isn't one and done. This is an operating model. It's the cyclical nature of being able to, operate capabilities in this sort of continuous improvement way. So how have we arrived at these sort of, six steps towards better practice?
Yeah, so it's very much geared around like meet the customer where you are. Like, so is migration going to be the big first step for you, or are you already fully in the cloud? Modernization is something which usually will quickly follow migration, but it's not a one-off activity. There's a constant need to evolve and modernize the way that things are being done as new services, new approaches become available, as you're looking to build new products in new ways. And there is going to be a need to optimize what you're doing there. And optimize is quite a broad category here. That could be around performance optimization and so on, cost optimization, and that cost awareness with having that FinOps culture to be constantly trying to make sure those who are responsible for the cloud spend, so the engineers who are deploying things, to make sure they are thinking about the cost of what they're going to do. None of these systems are working in isolation. Like integration is a key part of everything we're doing here, both integrating those systems together and all the other systems that he's going to talk to. So making sure that all of these things work in as seamless a way as possible, making data available and so on. That's really what's going to deliver business value to make sure that we're getting the most from this. And security, we could have numbered that number 0. Like that's something which we need to think about from the very start and throughout all of this process. We need to make sure that we're building secure systems that are fit for purpose, depending on who our customers are, what regulated environment we're working in, and so on. And of course, everything we build here is we've got to be able to operate, we've got to be able to support this and evolve it over time. So yeah, these are sort of useful categories to be thinking about when we're looking to build, evolve, and operate be it a startup or an enterprise systems in the cloud.
So thank you, Alan. There are 3 very important takeaways from this. Number 1, why are we showing you the operating model before we're getting into the strategy? Well, it's very important that you have an engine to execute your strategy. You have a methodology, you have a framework, you have a way of drilling in. So we're sharing not just the drivers and what's the relevance of updating your strategy, but sharing a model for, we used to call it Geshidu, get done. So this is the Geshidu model. You think about the needs of the business and the technology, you think about the outcomes that your strategy needs to deliver, and then you're moving away from this linear delivery model to a cyclical delivery model, a cyclical operating model that drives continuous improvement. And then the third part of this is screenshot this slide, steal it, remix it, do whatever you want with it, because there's always going to be a question asked. Your strategy is great. How are you going to implement it? What are your sets of capabilities? What does the existing infrastructure look like? What does the skills and roles look like? How does this become ways of working? This is the operating model that works. So let's summarize. Lewis, 20 seconds. What's your key takeaway from, why now, and what you should be addressing in your cloud strategy?
I really think it is just that rate of innovation. There's so much that's changed across everybody's estates that you need to make sure that you are looking to the future now. Like, I think with the amount of technological changes, the amount of pressure that's coming from different areas, AI coming into place, like, you need to be able to make sure that it's fit for purpose, not just for just now, but for the next 6 to 12 months, that you've got the right plan in place to deliver.
Thank you. Neil?
Focus to the business outcomes. What you're working on has to be in support of business outcomes. Make sure that all of these things are happening and that is what it is supporting, because that's why you're there.
Alan?
That was yeah, you said it right there. Yeah, it's got to be joined up thinking here. Like, what is the business trying to achieve? What are the technical blockers and the technical enablement that's going to let you take that to the next level, and making sure that there is joined up thinking throughout that. We don't want to just be doing technology for technology's sake.
Good. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is surprising for me, because I'm always right on time, right? I've got 2 questions. First of all, now we're at the halfway point. Is this useful? Is this a useful way of framing your thinking? What's changed? Why is this relevant? What can be the engine of implementing a strategy? And then my second question is to single out a very specific participant here. Philip with 2 P's. Okay. We've confirmed that in private chat. That is not Philip Potloff. The man, the myth, the legend. I hope you watch this replay and know how grateful we are. We acknowledge the work that you've put into the cloud strategy canvas. Good. Moving on. So here on part 2, we're going to try and make it a little bit more interactive. So we're going to show you the cloud strategy canvas. We're going to explore the components, and then we're going to share a whiteboard that allows you to drill down into your own themes. Aled, would you prefer that I share the Canvas best practice example as a slide, or do you want me to open it up as a whiteboard?
Let's do the best practice example as a slide. Talk to that about what we mean here, and then let's start with the blank canvas first to go through, I think.
Okay. So let me get the old laser pointer there, so you can see everything here. Brilliant. Yep. So let's start off with number 1. So we're going to work our way around the canvas with examples.
If I could just give a quick introduction to the canvas first, though.
Yes,
so,
please.
like, the purpose of the canvas is designed to help people to think about the challenges, the gaps, the opportunities with cloud, aiming to really foster that discovery, discussion, and really importantly, decision making. So often there's a challenge between like thinking big and actually getting started. How do you start small but think big? So how do you do like lean innovation principles? How do you do rapid decision making? How do you design things so that you can have actually that prompt action? So this canvas is designed to try to help people down that path. There's one rule which they talk about for it, which is don't overcomplicate it. So this is really aimed at having a canvas that we could go through a process, like really it should take about 90 minutes, aimed at to go through and discuss these different areas. But we'll kind of show during this session some of the sort of things you could do there. It was developed by AWS, published by Philip Potloff, who may or may not pop onto the call later. We'll see. So when he was the global head of enterprise strategy at AWS, he published this, and now he's GM of Software Marketplace. So this has been used by AWS multiple times to help companies to think through these, what they're trying to achieve and how. So Canvas helps folk to focus on these key questions and pinpoint like which projects, which actions should do first. It would normally be used by getting the key stakeholders into a room, thinking about like how do we get this successful transformations that's going to have top-down buy-in. Spend about sticky labels, so post-it notes onto this canvas and discussing those. It was originally developed to focus on cloud migrations for people who are when you're going to make that move to cloud, what is it you're really trying to achieve, and what are going to be the first steps to do it? But it can equally be used to revisit those same cloud roadmap discussions to say, what are we trying to achieve with cloud? What do we need to modernize? What do we need to change in the way we're using cloud to optimize to get the business benefits that we're after? And
Thanks, Elliot.
as such, no matter where you are in the journey, hopefully this can be useful.
That's a very useful background. Let's start off by explaining what these components are and try and burn through this. I think the more time we have to help people specifically with their personalized canvas would be really good. So let's start up here. Core purpose. What is that?
Right. So this is like trying to hone in on the core business purpose that we are trying to achieve with this this cloud roadmap. So can we succinctly put that down as a clear message that can be communicated to the entire business? So are we, for example, trying to increase the speed and agility of the technology organization?
All right. So that's the core purpose. Start with the why. And then second, we're moving into business needs. So Lewis, how would you classify the needs of the business here, and why are they going in as top priority?
These are going into top priority because the core purpose is an overarching initiative, right? These are the sort of the core things that need to change across the business, or the needs of the business for them to be able to achieve the goals that are there. So new customer growth is a good example. Getting into new markets, speed to market, the cost reduction and predictability of cost across IT is a business need to help with the speed and agility across the organization, and then the security aspects too. So these could be the business needs that you're currently needing to address to ensure that you're getting closer to that overarching core purpose.
And Mick, you've mentioned cost savings as a priority over using the latest and greatest shiny tools. Jason, you've talked about a skills shortage. Cloud spend is a massive challenge, so being able to right size and assign workloads to the right tariffs. Greg, you've mentioned regulatory and compliance around security. That's a very interesting one. Neil's the security whiz here. So Neil, technology challenges second. Why is this important?
So this is starting to think about what's getting in the way. So we know what we're trying to do. We know why we're trying to do it. What's getting in the way? What are the things that are holding us up? So what are the things that we need to have front of mind to be tackled to create an environment that makes this a successful thing to do? This is about making sure that we've surfaced the things that maybe everybody knows about, maybe people don't want to talk about, but you've got to bring them out, because if you don't bring them out into the open, you are not going to tackle them.
Yeah. So technology challenges around security, how to prioritize and address the risks, cost controls, all of this. It's our Blue Peter example, but it's resonating very well with what you guys have put into the chat here. release frequency. We know that, reducing time between iterations is probably the #1 indicator of an organization's adaptability to change. And then we've talked about the skills mismatch, dev teams for cloud knowledge, etc. Aled, what are BizTech goals? This may be some new language.
So really this is looking at what are we now trying to achieve? The previous box of technical challenges says, in our current state, what challenges do we have? So this is then looking to the future of what is it that we want to actually achieve with that. So there's going to be a lot of similarity in some ways to those technology challenges. They're challenges because they're in the way of our business needs. So the BizTech goals are going to be things we're going to achieve to solve that. Or there could be other forward-looking things. So, some businesses might put Gen AI into the BizTech goals of saying that they need to take advantage of that within the business.
Now,
in this case, then there's quite a good similarity between the challenges and how we're going to solve those by improving security, by introducing a culture of FinOps, by adopting DevOps best practices and breaking down barriers between siloed development and operations teams, and by upskilling the teams in cloud and DevOps.
Now, when we do the interactive activity, I think we're going to skip past the applications and IT portfolio snapshot because we don't have time, but this is really important. So walk us through the portfolio snapshot. What are these 6 classifications?
Yep. So first, snapshot's a really important word here. We're not trying to list out like all of your portfolio. Instead, we're trying to focus in on a few examples of areas that are worthy of attention for whatever reason, either because they're places where you have particular business pain, or they're particularly critical and need to be attention. So these large enterprise and web apps will include like the large off-the-shelf COTS products you're using, and other line of business apps there. Stagnant apps are ones that are getting little or no active development, but are still part of your mission critical set of things. Sensitive apps are going to be ones that are to do with regulated workloads or very sensitive data there. Non-performing ones are ones that are not meeting the requirements. So we can think of those as, we could classify those as almost on fire. So are they too slow? Are they unstable? Are they not scaling well enough? Then we've got net new, so self-evident, like new things that we are building. And then that last category of big data platforms, data warehouses. What are we trying to do with our data? And what systems do we already have there? And are they the needs that we really need from them?
Say that last point again, Aled. Your internet was breaking up a little bit.
So yeah, big data is an area where there's more and more we can do with that. So is it really delivering the business needs that we have, or is that an area that then needs to be focus and modernization?
Yeah. My specialism. And then quick 30 seconds on applications to improve. What are these classifications, and how do we make sure that this list doesn't end up endless?
So we're focusing on a very small number of applications here. We need somewhere to get started. So as we said before, if we're going to have this 90-minute exercise, that's not going to just be some high-level PowerPoint that comes off the back of it, but actually an action plan. We need to narrow in on a number of apps, maybe up to 5, that need to get attention of some of them. Now, this was originally written with the word move because it was with a cloud migration mindset, but it equally applies if we're talking about how we're currently using cloud and are we getting the business value we need from these. So we're going to look at those attributes of what's the level of risk involved in this application, and ideally we'll be able to tackle low risk, high value things, but maybe changing some of these things are poorly understood legacy apps that are high risk but necessary to change. The things that we want to address on that should absolutely relate back to things we've got on that left-hand side of business needs. And then the strategy for it. So if it's a migration, we have a standard set, the 7 R's of migration, like different strategies such as rehost, replatform, refactor, or is it an app that's already in the cloud? At which point, what is our modernization strategy for this, so the containerization or whatever? Or do we actually want to just throw this application away, stop self-hosting it, and repurchase it as under a SaaS model?
And then, so let's talk about the preconditions for success and key actions. Lewis, why is it broken down into these two things? So people, process, culture on one side, and then the high-level business case on the other. Why are preconditions for success so important to think about far ahead of time?
Because without actually identifying what needs to change or where you need to get to from a people, process, and culture perspective, none of the good work that needs to be done to achieve the goals can be completed. So being able to have an honest review and looking into to the challenges that you have, not just from a technology perspective, but from a people perspective and a process perspective and the culture of the organization, you need to be able to make sure that people are bought in. So it's really key to know where you need to get to from a success perspective across those three buckets, and then having a high level business case to not just look about the people that would be involved, but the people who own the decisions that are being made. If the senior execs aren't bought into what needs to be done here, you're not really going to have the people, the process, and the culture being changed at the ground level. So there needs to be a cohesive approach to what's being done here.
And Neil, to wrap us off, key actions, right? There's never going to be enough post-it notes to put into this, but why is this the landing point after 90 minutes from doing this activity?
So, like Alan mentioned earlier on, the key thing is do something. So if you just talk about everything in theory, you don't get anywhere. You've actually got to do something. So at the end of this exercise, there is, what are we actually agreeing that we're going to do? So when the people, process, and culture, what are we going to do? Either we're going to validate something, we're going to change something, we're going to get an agreement that something is going to be different, or there is some way to verify that what we need for success is in place. Same is true of the high-level business case. We're solidifying something that needs to be done so that that can actually happen, so that everything we've said up till now to achieve the purpose, to meet the technology challenges, to improve the applications is there. It's about being driven to take action.
Fantastic. So in summary, we've got a personalized copy for all of you to work on and download, but we start off with the core purpose, the whole Simon Sinek thing. Start with the why. What is the purpose of the strategy? What are the business needs and the technology challenges, the things getting in the way? What are the biz tech goals in overcoming those challenges to drive a business outcome? The portfolio snapshot, just getting a topological view and having a think about the applications that matter for the purposes of the strategy. Deeply thinking about the preconditions for success, people, process, culture, and the high-level business case, and then how they come together, and then the same thing for key actions. So we're 2 minutes over, and that's all right. I'm going to hand over to my learned colleagues now as we kind of take you through a sort of interactive exercise. If you're on a mobile phone, I think this will, I think you'll be able to view, but I don't know how good the whiteboard experience will be for you. If you want to dial back into a tablet or a Zoom on the laptop, you're going to get the best experience out of this. So, Aled, would you like to take over and share the whiteboard, or would you like me to drive and you talk?
You drive and we all talk.
I'll drive and we'll talk. All right, let's see.